Winter forages are often sought out by livestock owners to reduce or eliminate hay feeding and thereby impact winter feeding costs. Let's take a look at some economic decision factors for planting cool season forages. The first step to determining if cool season forages are right for you is looking at what species will be grazing. Knowing what class of livestock will be eating the forages will help you decide on what yield levels will be required for them to maintain a proper body condition score and have access to the amount of forage needed to sustain themselves. Also, keep in mind the number of animals you will be grazing on the cool season forage plots, as this will come into play when doing our calculations. The species of livestock can also help you decide what species or varieties of forages need to be planted for optimal grazing. Factoring out your capacity needs is the second step in determining if cool season forages are right for you. Do you have access to the amount of land that will be needed to generate the forage yield to provide for your number of animals? How long will you need to graze the animals on cool season forages before summer pastures are available? Will some hay be supplemented to fill in timing gaps? These questions are important to have beforehand so you know what kind of economic viability planting will be. The costs associated with planting annual forages are seeds, equipment, and maintenance. Seed price will vary widely, not only for the different species, but also the varieties within those species. Certified seed, meaning it contains a small percentage of weed seeds and is verified for the cultivar, versus brown bag seeds will also differ in price. Since annual forages must be replanted every year, this will be a recurring cost. Equipment is needed to plant seeds. Whether you broadcast or no-till drill seeds into an existing pasture or prepared seed bed, you will need equipment. Your planting method will determine what equipment is necessary. Since this is a one-time purchase that can be used for a multitude of things on your operation, only a portion of the cost should be devoted to planting cool season forages. However, fuel costs during planting and maintenance should be attributed to the economics of planting at the full rate. Maintenance of the plot can include fertilizer, weed control, mowing, and potentially irrigation. These costs should be factored into the total economic decision, but will be unique to your individual operation. Make sure to get price quotes from nearby dealers of the products you will need so you can make an accurate financial decision. Take into account some other factors, such as time involved in planting, mowing, or other maintenance tasks on the plot, as well as the costs related to moving animals in a rotational grazing system. Will you need to purchase or rent equipment to accomplish your planting goals? Will labor need to be hired to maintain the plot? Will temporary fencing and water systems need to be purchased or established before grazing can begin? These considerations should be decided upon before you plan annual forage, as these will likely have the most upfront economic impact. A lot of the decision-making into whether or not to plant cool season forages should revolve around forage utilization. If you will not be able to graze the forage properly because you do not have enough animals, consider reducing the amount of acres you plant. If you do not have enough potential forage yield for your animals, consider adding more acreage or supplementing with hay. To determine your forage utilization amount, you must calculate how many pounds of forage your animals, in total, can consume a day. This will vary based on the species of livestock and their weights. Also, look at how long the general season is for the forage species you will plant. Will you get 60 or 90 days of grazing from the plot? Potentially more? This will impact your financial decision. You should expect that only 50% of your forage yield will be consumed. The rest will be lost to trampling or waste. To determine how many pounds per day your animals require to maintain body condition score, use the following recommendations. For cattle, 20 to 24 pounds of dry matter per day on average. Horses, 10 to 20 pounds of dry matter per day, and small ruminants such as sheep and goats, approximately 4 to 6 pounds of dry matter per day. Notice these measurements are calculated as a percent of the animal's body weight and are reported as dry matter values. If you are not familiar with calculating dry matter rates for your forage, contact your local extension agent for support. Deciding whether to feed hay or plant cool season forages can be factored into short-term costs or long-term costs. Feeding hay is broken into small increments over the cool season, unless one bulk purchase is made at the beginning of the season and hay is stored on the farm. Planting cool season forages include purchasing equipment, which has a multi-use component, a long-term investment in forages planted, risk of poor performance, and potentially large upfront costs. However, planting cool season forages, when done correctly, can make economic sense for a lot of producers and actually can provide a potential cost savings to feeding hay. Let's utilize this scenario to help walk you through calculating the economic decision factors. If we had access to 10 acres of land and needed to feed 10 cows during the cool season, it would cost approximately $1,802.80 to plant ryegrass, based on estimated planting costs per acre from the University of Georgia annual's budget. If we estimate our planted forage will yield 4,000 pounds of dry matter per acre, and our animals will utilize 50% of that, we can expect 2,000 pounds of dry matter per acre. With a total of 10 acres available, we can expect 20,000 pounds of dry matter available to utilize over the entire cool season. Earlier, we stated each cow needs, on average, 24 pounds of dry matter a day. So with 10 cows, we will need a total of 240 pounds per day to sustain our animals. With a total season forage yield of 20,000 pounds of dry matter, divided by the 240 pounds per day our animals need, we can calculate that we will obtain 83 grazing days on the forage planted, at a cost of 9 cents per pound of dry matter. Ryegrass yields are highest in March and begin declining in May. This is where species consideration is important, as you potentially will need to feed hay from October until January or February, when you can begin to utilize the planted forage, or you will have to plant multiple species of forages. If we were to feed hay, we can determine the total cost by estimating the total weight of the bale. This will vary by producer, but on average, we will say 600 pounds for this exercise. We will also estimate each bale costs $40. We determined earlier we will need 240 pounds a day to feed our 10 cows. So if we need to feed hay from October to January, or for 90 days, then we can multiply our 90-day feeding period to our daily forage requirement and see we will need a total of 21,600 pounds of dry matter. We estimate dry matter percentage of the hay bales and divide the weight of the bales to determine we will need approximately 40 rolls of hay to feed our cows until we can graze the planted ryegrass. This comes out to a total of $1,600 for hay at a cost of 7 cents per pound of dry matter. In total, for the winter feeding program of feeding hay and planting cool season forages, our cost would equal $3,400, plus the time and effort of planting and maintaining the plot versus simply putting out rolls of hay. If we were to have just fed hay for the entire winter season, our total cost would have only been $3,200. It was more expensive and time-intensive to plant cool season forages and may not necessarily have been a benefit for us or our animals. However, natural grazing behaviors can be beneficial for animals, and hay tends to have higher waste amounts, so the slight difference in cost may not actually be significant. This is why planting cool season forages is not a one-size-fits-all management decision. It is truly specific to your operation's needs, abilities, and management goals. Costs will vary year to year for planting and for feeding hay, so make sure you're doing an estimated cost analysis yearly to help you make your decision. You can utilize this helpful graphic to determine your cost of growing and grazing cool season annuals per dry matter ton consumed. This is a condensed version of the steps we just walked through, but gives you the ability to plug in the numbers you generated for your operation. Here you will see a chart that allows you to determine what the total cost of growing and grazing cool season forages per dry matter ton consumed will be. $117 per dry matter ton is standard, but you may have reduced or improved yields than the average, or have a difference in production costs that can impact your relation to the base price. This chart will help you determine what your total cost of growing and grazing cool season forages needs to be in relation to your production cost and forage utilization rate to make it cost effective. For cattle, we can estimate the value of an increased average daily gain due to planting higher quality cool season forages rather than feeding hay. This increased gain over the season can have an additional value at market that may increase your financial gain and help offset some production costs, which will make it more financially feasible and potentially cheaper than feeding hay. If you decide to plant legume species of cool season forages, these nitrogen-fixing plants will help reduce future fertilizer costs. This reduction in future fertilizer needs will have a cost benefit to planting cool season forages and may be helpful for you to decide whether to plant or not. All in all, planting cool season forages is a management decision that is based not only on financial aspects, but also time, labor, and operational goals. Consult with your local extension agent for advice particular to your operation or for help working through the cost analysis. Have questions? Feel free to contact me, Alicia Halbritter, for help with cool season forage decision making, or reach out to your local extension agent.